Hello and welcome to This Album with me, William Han. It's the podcast where each episode a guest and I will deep dive an album of their choice. We're going to discuss the songs, the shows, the artwork, but we're also going to discuss the emotional attachment my guest has to the album. So sure, we'll discuss how it charted, where it was recorded, but what I really want to know is where my guest first heard it, what was happening in their life at the time, and what memories they attached to it. Who knows? We might even have a bloody laugh while doing it too. Today, I am joined by a woman that is single-handedly making sure the nocturnal workers around the country can still listen to indie bangers even while they work their night shift or, piss in the back of an Uber. She knows her Kasabians from her Klaxons, her Kooks from her Killers, her Kaisers from her Kings of Leons. She even knows some bands that don't begin with K. She knows her Florences from her Foos. She knows her Blossoms from her Bastilles, her Knowles from her Liams, and her Catfish and the Bottomman from her, not Catfish and the Bottomman. All the way from Radio X. It's Sophie Sveinsson.
Oh my God, did you nick my CV with that introduction? That's what I put to the bosses.
My basic hacking skills have prospered once again. Sophie, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. Thanks for having us down here in South London.
A real pleasure. We're not in South London, but
I have no idea where I am.
You are showing true northern skills here. This is
I stare at the tube map like a tourist.
Well, you made it.
I did make it.
Well, made it back, I should say. You've been here before, haven't you?
Yeah.
So I should probably say we're at the Cumberland. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what you were doing last time I was here, Sophie?
Ooh, well, it was the Oasis Together We'll Fly exhibition.
What a night.
Brilliant. Did it in Manchester as well, at Salford Lads Club. But down here we had the London version, and I did a bit of DJing between the excellent bands that were performing that evening.
Big night, wasn't it? A lot of fun. So we should probably set the scene a little bit. It's mid-December. Christmas is on our doorstep. We've got to get into it. Sophie, how's your Spotify rap looking this year?
Can I say I don't use Spotify?
Me neither. I'm an Apple Music girly.
Okay, I'm Tidal.
You're a Tidaler?
They pay them more.
There ain't many of them about.
Yeah, they pay them more, the artists.
As
an old
Sophie.
artist, yes, I will go to the ones who pay them.
So what's the Tidal alternative? I've no idea. Is there a Tidal Wrapped-esque release? I
don't know. Maybe it's just like a 2024 best of or most listened to this year.
Right.
Yeah.
And who made the pay this year?
I feel really ashamed that I haven't looked. I float. I'm terrible.
You're not data driven, and that's all right.
Yeah, I'm not data driven.
I'm so glad I asked.
My lug hole's like. Yeah.
And what are your lug holes like? What sort of thing are you into, Sophie?
Oh God, now you're asking, right? So I always loved to be knee deep in the 90s, female
artists. Yes, please.
Love it. That's my home. That's when I discovered music as a teenager, moping about, going, this sounds really, really nice. Anything from that, but I also love. I love the return of anti-folk that's coming out now, like Gigi Perez. She is everywhere. And I love this because this was my introduction into making music myself. It was me and a guitar and a voice. So I love the fact that that's all coming back because that was big in the 90s. Alanis Morissette did it.
Yes, please.
And then we had the rest of them following and then it's coming back. And I sort of love that.
For those that don't know who you are, why don't you explain a bit about who you are and what you do and what your vibe is, Sophie?
I push buttons and make music come out of people's speakers on Radio X, yes.
Well, on behalf of indie fans everywhere, we thank you for your services.
Yes.
You always worked in radio?
No, I was a teacher for a while. Yes, I was. Because I thought teaching would work around the music that I was creating.
So you come from bands and stuff historically?
I've come from a band, yes. Nice. My own music. That was always the big dream, was to sort of make it in music. And I played and then finished university. And it was like, right, I need a job. None of the jobs that I was worked around the recording and the touring. So do you know what? Teaching, that's an easy job, isn't it? A teacher will allow me to record in the holidays. I can go touring in the holidays. And it sapped me.
But look at you now.
But look at this. But you know what? If it wasn't for the music and being interviewed on the radio, I would have never found radio because when we've been interviewed, I'd go, that looks pretty cool what they're doing.
So is that how it happened?
That's how it happened.
Right. Yeah. So where was that? When was that?
Oh, that might have been with Mark Riley.
Mark Riley.
Yeah.
It's all his fault.
Yeah. Seeing him and performing on one of his big Christmas parties that he used to have at the old BBC building in Manchester. He used to invite loads of bands, some of his favourite bands that he had perform on his show. And I was performing with Dutch Uncles. And we did Christmas rapping by the waitresses.
Banger alert.
With his house band, and it was just brilliant. And I had such a good time, and just the buzz around the studio. I was like, I want to do this. I want to do this job.
So you were there sort of promoting yourself
Yeah, and then found a new path. Yeah.
So how far did you get with your band? You're doing sessions with Mark Riley. You must have been doing something,
we did
right?
okay. We did okay. And then, just life gets in the way. People grew and wanted different things.
Yeah.
But I never say never.
Sure.
Now I've got a bit more space and I've stopped chasing something else. Never say never.
Love that. The door is open.
Yeah.
Well, the same thing. You sort of realise in a band, keeping 4 or 5 people to the same schedule, expect them to give up their Tuesdays in unison and then give up their Thursday. Oh, the weekend we've all got to be together at the same time as well. It's impossible, isn't it?
You find, you do want a life outside of music as well. Some people have got partners and stuff like that, but you also have to keep a job down, and not many jobs can lend themselves to, you give up your annual leave to go record and go tour, and sometimes that doesn't always marry in. Unless
you're a super posho, which is the problem we have nowadays.
Yes, mummy and daddy will support you.
Everyone is a secret posho.
And I'm just envious if if people have got that support. I'm from a very working class family where I had to pay, and I've worked since I was 11. Back in my day,
10 miles in the snow there, 10 miles back.
Down those mines. But we never had that privilege, so I've always worked. I've digressed. Let's get back on track.
Shall we? Before we get into the artist we're discussing today, before you discovered this artist, what sort of thing was you into? Obviously, you mentioned the Alanis Morissette. Was that kind of your vibe?
So my mum and dad were in a band. So I grew up with all different types of music. Classical music. Oh my God, the amount of Genesis, the amount of Queen that used to blast out. My dad had his keyboards. He'd play all of that. I grew up with all sorts. So I never turned my back on anything. I guess Kate Bush was someone for me when I was younger.
And how young would you have been
what's
then?
This?
How old were you when you discovered Kate Bush then, do you reckon?
Oh, my mum was playing her when I was about 7. And Gloria Estefan, which I would love. I would plug. We had loads of microphones around the house, and I would plug it into my mum's bass amp, the microphone. Don't know if it blew.
Destroying mum's equipment. You must have been a very
Gloria
popular
Estefan
kid.
on, and then just sing to Gloria Estefan.
Amazing.
But when I got older, I sort of discovered my own way. I liked it a bit rockier. I mean, mum and dad were in a rock band, so I had that introduction, but it then became about maybe Placebo. Nirvana came into my life. The Filth came in,
A bit of distortion.
Yeah.
Yes,
and I was
please.
like, oh my God, this is gorgeous. And then just the other side of that with the more chilled out stuff, Mazzy Stars, the female vocalists of that era. Just anything that wasn't sort of pop. No.
Well, that leads us on quite nicely then. Maybe we should take this moment for you to introduce who it is we are deep diving today, Sophie.
The lady is incredible, the red-headed goddess. That is Tori Amos.
So, today we are discussing the debut album by American singer-songwriter Tori Amos, Little Earthquakes. Little Earthquakes was released by Atlantic Records in 1992 at a time when grunge music was making its presence felt. And her label wanted her to replace the album's blinky-blonky pianos with guitars. It's fair to say that she had the confidence in herself not to listen, and the album is dominated by child prodigy Tori's virtuoso piano playing and her fearless, unpredictable vocal deliveries. The album was recorded on a limited budget by Tori Amos and Eric Rose at his home studio in London. Despite the simple setup, the production's lush, evocative, and it sounds ready to fill arenas. Little Earthquakes touches on big topics: religion, Tori finding her identity, a sexual awakening, and on Me and a Gun, sexual assault. It had an immediate impact. It landed at 15 in the UK album charts. In the States, things moved a little slower. It charted at 43 in the Billboard 100, but MTV and radio were big supporters of Tori. Before long, she was a household name across the States. Tori's legacy lives on, and her impact on big pop stars of today is very clear, particularly the likes of Chappell Roan, whose vocal style is near identical to Tori's. Listen to track 2 on the album, Girl, and it's pure Chappell Roan. So, this album came out in 1992. Did you discover this when it first got released?
No,
or?
not at all.
Right.
Not at all. This is quite late. I think I discovered this. God, I got to work out the years. Maybe 98.
Okay.
Was that right? I can't do the maths. So, I have to paint the picture here.
Paint some pictures.
Right,
Get your brushes out.
It's a wonderful way in which I discovered Tori Amos. So, my granddad, Frank, did Morse code radio, all that sort of stuff, and he used to communicate with so many people around the world. And he met one guy who had a son who was my age. And we started being pen pals. That's right. Before MSN Messenger, before the internet, we actually wrote to each other, had to go to the post office. So we wrote to each other for quite a while. And my granddad said, right, you save up the money from your little job that you had to get, an airplane ticket. I'll take you over. So I saved.
I'll take you over to where? Where was this?
Sorry,
place?
America.
Sorry,
yeah, Maryland in America. Yeah, missed that bit out. So I actually saved half and he paid the rest of it. Don't tell my sister that. So he took me over to this family and it was great. And I got to meet Mike's friends. And one of them I had a bit of a crush on.
Inevitably.
He was called Jesse.
I don't know why that's funny, but it definitely is.
He was tall, long-haired, just like how I liked my boys back in the day.
Was he giving Kurt Cobain energy?
Big green eyes. He was a bit more gothic, actually, in his vibe. Anyway, I got a bit of a crush on him. And I plucked up the courage after the 2 weeks that I was there to say, I really like you, Jesse, and I'm really sad that I'm going home. So this was the penultimate day. The next day, he hands me a mixtape and he says, listen to this. When I go back to my pen pal's house and I listen to the cassette tape, laid on the floor next to the stereo, and Simple Minds came on. Don't You Forget About Me.
Banger.
Yeah. There was a 9 Inch Nails tune. Can't remember what it was. There was a Marilyn Manson song that came on that I've never heard of before. It wasn't a rock. It was kind of a slow one. And then Mother came on. Tori Amos. And the start of that, I was like, what the hell is this? I've never really heard anything quite like this. And I was just a little bit addicted. And I was sat there sobbing like this teenager. Oh, I love this boy and I'm never going to see him. This music's beautiful. It was like a scene from Dawson's Creek with the soundtrack. And then another song came on and that was Little Earthquakes.
Yeah.
And then Tear in Your Hand as well, in between other songs. And I was just, from that moment, absolutely hooked. I listened to it on the way home on the aeroplane on my Walkman. And then got home and I just constantly listened to Tori Amos. And as we continued to write to each other, he kept sending me more and more Tori Amos music until he finally sent me through the post, Little Earthquakes on CD, his own version.
So I love this. So you're devoted to like a bootleg version of it. Do you have that thing now where when the next song starts, you're expecting the song that was on the cassette?
Well, back in the day, yes, but I've listened to that album so many times now that I sort of know it inside out.
Brilliant. Yeah. And that was in 1998, you say?
Around that time, I can't remember.
Because I'm thinking, because that would have been around the time of the big remix, the Armand Van Helden remix. That's how everyone knows.
I think right up to Choir Girl Hotel or A Little Boys for Pele, she'd had quite a few albums out at that time because this Jesse boy kept sending me all of his singles.
The new ones,
he was a massive fan. But all of his Tori Amos collection, he just kept sending me in the post. Sure.
But here's the thing. I was quite excited. When you told me you wanted to cover this album, I knew so little about Tori Amos. Obviously, I knew Cornflake Girl. I knew the big Armand Van Helden remix. Banger. I've had to dig deep on this. You've maybe put some work in for this today. And I've got to thank you for it. I've got a lot out of this album. I'm not quite sure what I was expecting, but like, it's lush. It sounds like someone pushing boundaries. Were those sort of things connecting with you when you first heard it, do you reckon? What was it that sort of caught your attention with all of this?
I think so, because looking back now, I think it's what I wanted to do musically.
So you hadn't worked that out yet? But
no, so I played the piano since I was 6, and I hated the classical stuff. I was forced to do all my exams and stuff. So I quit the piano, and then I started to just strum on a guitar. And then I heard a piano played in this way with this, and I picked up on her... You couldn't put her in the punk genre as such, in a record shop, but she is definitely punk as fuck with her attitude. Absolutely. And just her way of life. And if you ever go see her live, the audience members, it's like a buffet of people. There is such a mix. You've got your goths in there, you've got your hippies in there, you've got grandmas who love her, and it's just a wonderful collection of people who just sort of like, she's touched, you know what I mean? It's a...
Yeah, because one thing I heard a lot when I was doing my research on this, she's got this habit which she does live, which is amazing, where she'll lock eyes with the men in the audience and makes the men squirm a little bit and feel a little bit uncomfortable. As sort of a feminist, do you think of her as like a feminist icon, do you reckon?
Oh, God, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially when you go into this album and you realise what Me and a Gun is all about.
Yeah.
It is quite heartbreaking, and that song on that album, if you listen to it, it's the most literal song lyrically from the rest, because she does write, and she's always said, you know, her songs are down to interpretation, because they are poems, essentially. They're not literal at all. They're metaphors used right throughout, and you can interpret however you want. But that one is very literal, and it
very
gives
direct.
you goosebumps, and you can get really deep into it and just imagine what was going on as she was being raped, you know. It's literally that he's on her back and just let him do it, because I've never been to Barbados. He's got a gun against my head, so just let him do it.
She wasn't fucking about, was she?
No, it's kind of, the fact that in the album that it's just hearing a voice as well.
Yeah. So it's
raw, man.
Yeah, there's not much on there in terms of other instruments, is there? There's a few little weird guitar solo bits, but they're really low in the mix. And it's sort of, it's Tori's album, right? It is all her on piano. It is, she's at the forefront in the mix of it all. You mentioned about the lyrics of it, actually. There's one song, it's track 7, where I started losing a little bit of interest, a song called China. I wasn't connecting with it at all. It's a bit too warbly, not enough of that plinky plonky stuff I've been enjoying so far. But even the lyrics on that were fucking brilliant. It's about a breakup, and you can sort of picture the whole scene so well. So even when you get to a song that I'm losing interest in, the lyrics are pulling me back in. So even the sort of dudder moments are still hitting really well. What do you think her big strengths are? Is it the piano playing? Is it the lyrics? Is it the vocals?
I can't pinpoint any of it. It's all that works together. The way she plays that piano, if you listen to it, and then when she hits those bass notes, you know, that's her bottom end, and the piano that she uses, I should really know what piano it is.
I did have a note of it somewhere, actually. But
have a look. It's just, But that piano and the way she plays it, with her voice, anybody else, I don't think it would work. And if she's singing quite literal songs, as we hear so much nowadays, I don't think it would work. I think it's just the perfect circle. I can't say what makes it. It's all of it.
Love that.
All of it.
And how do you think she compared to her contemporaries, like, you know, Alanis Morissette, Sinead O'Connor? It was an era of really great, strong female superstars. How did you think she fitted into that mold, do you reckon?
Well, I think all those artists that you mentioned were doing sort of their own sort of thing, and she was doing her own sort of thing. When you think back to what was happening at that time, you had Alanis Morissette. She was shouting about that bloke who really broke her heart, and she, you know, all the teenagers loved that. She's going, fuck off, and everyone else felt that. There was no one else really doing that at that time, like her style anyway. Sinead O'Connor was, you know, she was doing her thing. PJ Harvey as well, more of a darker realm. She just stood out, like they all did. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was a wonderful time. I hope we do get that again in the future.
I think we're having it right now. I mean, the pop stars of today, you're surrounded by amazing female pop stars filling stadiums. Also mentioned Chapel Row, and I think what she's going to achieve in the next 12 months or so is going to be absolutely monumental. But like, you look at the festival lineups nowadays, and it's, well, not so much the festival lineups, I guess, but like BST Hyde Park, for example, that is mostly fronted by these great female pop stars. It's no secret that in the noughties, the misogyny was pretty strong in the music industry, and there was no women on record labels or on festival lineups anywhere. The 90s was a real hotbed for it. So why do you think it was sort of, labels were supporting more women back then than they were in like the noughties, do you reckon?
Because we're fucking good, husband. That's why. I always think the 90s, and I hate to go back because it was my affirming years, the 90s, of like understanding what music I liked. There was just something very magical going on that I cannot pinpoint. Like, I always look at Top of the Pops and the fact that in a half an hour show you would have the Spice Girls, Oasis and Placebo on the same show. You know, it was just such a wonderful mix of genres.
I've been watching a lot of Top of the Pops lately, and I forgot how weird Top of the Pops could be at times. You know, in my mind, you'd get Backstreet Boys and you might get Oasis. There was so much weird shit going on in the 90s that I'd sort of forgotten was happening.
Yeah.
It was
all the drugs, man.
Yeah, bring back drugs.
Everyone
bring
thinks
back
it's the 60s
drugs.
and 70s, but the 90s.
And what do you reckon with Tori? It was like the imagery and fashion a large part of it for you as well? I guess you didn't have that at the time. It was on the cassette, right?
She was like, I wasn't. I was a bit of a bit between a goth and a skate girl at that age that I discovered her. So when she was all floaty, fairy, it wasn't that. It was just, oh my God, that this really cool woman straddling a seat playing the piano, and she's fucking awesome. There's nothing, I've never heard anything quite like her.
I quite like that. So even though she wasn't your vibe, you thought, that's fucking cool.
Yeah.
I'll have that.
Yeah.
That's cool. And what do you reckon? You mentioned like writing pen, what are they called? Not pen pals. You're writing...
What?
You're writing notes to your pen pal friend in Maryland.
Yeah.
Other than that, I mean, what's happening in your life when you first discovered Tori?
What was that? Well, I was at college. I was at college making weird films.
How weird are we talking?
That was just experimental films. I got the understanding if I make really strange films for my video units, I'd get really high grades. And I continued that through university as I did experimental film. So that was what was happening. So just a usual 16, was I 16? Maybe a bit, 2000 I was 16. So not a lot, just at college. Discovering music. I'm from Grimsby, very working class town. And in Grimsby, you sort of had two choices as a teenager. Go to the park, get pissed with your mates, smoke some fags, smoke some joints. Or if you were a little bit weird, like we were, you would put on your own gigs.
Right.
So we had a pub that I started working at, which would let these teenagers put punk shows on.
I didn't know there was an underground punk scene in Grimsby.
It's
this is the
massive.
kind of insight I'm in
You
for.
look into like the amazing stories of Grimsby and its underground music scene. And there was this, I can't even describe what it was. It was like a mobile building in the middle of town, but in a field, which they'd let us hire out. And the production company, the promotional company was called Big Ass, and it was our friends who ran it. And it was just every Friday night there was a punk show on, just loads of mates and their bands just playing punk or metal. And then on a Wednesday night it'd be the same thing. And that was my life, going to college, going to punk shows, and my mum and dad would let me.
So it almost feels like two different worlds. The music Tori is making, obviously quite punk in attitude in places, but not sonically. So were you straddling these two worlds at the same time, do you reckon? Were you in punk bands yourself, or you were just sort of...
No, it wasn't then. No, I was sort of like with my acoustic guitar,
right,
making up songs and
so
discovering
you were
who
the
I
real
was.
punk in the punk scene.
Yes. But yeah, no, like I said earlier, I'm not closed off to any genre of music, and I liked all things. And I guess it was the people as well at the punk shows. I like the music, but it was
right.
You find your tribe, don't you? That was my tribe. The park having a bottle of cider wasn't my tribe. The gigs with a bottle of vodka and smoking was my vibe.
It's a good vibe.
Yeah.
It's a strong vibe. And what do you reckon? How often do you go back to this album and revisit it?
Not too often. Not too often. I was trying, when you invited me here and I listened back to it, and when you listen to something, it takes you back to certain moments in your life. I was taken back to maybe a few months after leaving this guy in America and coming home, and I would sneakily sneak out of my bedroom window and take my stereo with me. This was when my mum and dad were in bed, and I would sit and smoke and listen to it and get really quite deep and look up at the sky and go, oh my God, we're so far away from this guy, but we're under the same sky. But listening to this album and having like another Dawson's Creek moment, God, Jesus, it sounded better in my head when I was practicing this.
Honestly, you painted the picture pretty well for me. I was there. I was in Grimsby. I was a little bit cold. It was, it was winter time. I was looking up at the stars, but no, I was right with you. Don't you worry, Sophie.
No, it's one of those where I think when I just need it, I'll go to it.
Yeah.
Because it's not a sing around the house, mopping the floor kind of album. It's, I need to dive in.
It's not a pre-drinks Friday night album, is it?
No. If I want to get deep, I'll whack it on.
Well, it's always there when you need it. I guess it's time to get into some of the songs, isn't it?
Yeah, go for it.
So, obviously, you mentioned the first couple that you heard on that first mixtape. Were they the ones that still stand out to you, do you reckon? Or have you got new favourites?
No, I think they are. I think because of the impact that they had on me straight away, I still think that they are my favourites.
Yeah.
But I can't. That's hard to say. I don't think I skip through any of the songs. I have to listen to it.
It works
as
really well as a
should
piece,
be
doesn't
listened
it?
to.
Yeah. I had a really nice experience of it, actually. So obviously, as mentioned, I'd never listened to the album before. So the first time I listened to it, started top to bottom, and you sort of know in your head, even though you're not looking at the track list, then you sort of know when an album's coming to its last song, don't you?
Yeah.
So I got to the last song, and then I hadn't recognised any of the songs. I thought I might have done. They were all completely new to me. And then this last song started, and I thought, oh, I know this one. What song's this? What song's this? I started singing. I'm thinking, I know this song. But it wasn't Tori Amos. It went on to a new artist afterwards. It was Bat for Lashes, a song of hers called Laura. Do you know it?
Yes, I know Bat for Lashes.
It's pure Tori Amos. It was quite clear that Bat for Lashes had taken a very clear influence from Tori.
Yeah. Even in their performances when they first started out, God, this was so long ago. That Flash actually supported my husband's band.
Amazing.
Oh my God, years ago, before anybody who knew who they were. And I would watch and go, oh my God, this is like Tori Amos and Bjork, like merged together.
Yeah. And it worked well. I mean, that song, fucking Nora, is absolutely bloody brilliant, isn't it? So I wouldn't say it's the best song on the Tori Amos album, was Bat for Lashes, but it was a good one. But for me, I think it's that first song on the album, isn't it? Crucify. The production on it, when it gets into the chorus, there's these weird sort of tingly sounds that go on. I've never had anything like it. It was sort of really whimsical and mystical. And
I think when you realise because that was her boyfriend at the time who produced it.
That's right, yeah.
He's classically trained and done a lot more. He's done quite a lot of scoring as well, I think. So I think his influence on it is massive. Because Tori is just with a piano, if you watch her live, just insanely
Well, I was
good.
going to ask you about this. Have you seen her live before?
Once.
Talk to me.
I will never do it again.
You're going to have to go on.
Even if it was for free, it was just so incredible, I daren't do it again. In case it ruins it.
You don't sound mad here. I had a very similar experience with Blur. When I saw them at Glastonbury, I just thought, it can't be beaten. That is like just so emotionally charged. There's such a sense of completion and like a book closing. I remember it was next summer or the summer after, all my mates were seeing them in Hyde Park. I was like, can't do it, don't want to do it, have fun. But I caved in last year and saw Blur at Wembley. And it was all right. It was about fucking 15, 18 years, whatever it was in between. So I don't mind. But I understand what you're saying. You mentioned the sort of variety in the crowd there. I mean, what was it like? Where did you see him?
The Apollo in Manchester.
Yeah.
So one of my favourite venues anyway. And what was ace was like, I was so giddy. Me and my best friend went. And I think maybe I was 12 rows away from her. And
pretty good.
Everyone just started walking down the aisle to just sit at the front of the stage. I was like, oh my God. And the security didn't stop anybody. So I just walked down to the front of the stage. And I just glared at her right throughout the performance. But she is... Oh, God, she's so good. Like, 2 pianos on stage. She'll have a harpsichord there as well. And I think she invited a guitarist on to do some of those gorgeous guitar swells that you hear quite a lot on this album. And it was just one of those moments, like the impact that she's had on my life, just going, this is amazing. This is the sort of music that I want to make. Yeah, and that's I'll always be grateful for Tori.
Thank you, Tori.
Yeah, thanks. Cheers, love.
So you're still writing a lot of songs nowadays?
Not now, but now my babies are older, I feel like it's time. There's too many signs aligning to go, what's going on here? So get back on it.
Is that more guitar-led, piano-led?
It'll be always piano.
Thank
always
you, Tori.
Is Tori, yes. She taught me how to play piano like a rock and roller.
So what are your favourite moments on the album then?
Right, so... Crucify, I think it sort of draws you in. Can I look at your list?
Please,
That's cheating, isn't
list
it?
in just there. Don't worry, you want to look in just
there we go, yeah. Right, so this is where I start to get really giddy. Silent all these years. It's just that first bit, and it's just like, oh my God, this is so beautiful. And I don't know what it is, because that wasn't one of the songs that I heard first with her. This is so hard because I keep forgetting how much I love this album.
Sophie.
No, it's not.
I must remind you did choose this album, not me.
I did. But I have been listening to it when you invited me to come and do this. So this is still where I get excited. I don't know what it is about this song, Silent All These Years. Sorry, I'm pointing at a piece of paper that no one can see.
I can
Silent
see.
All These Years just comes in, and I just love that song. And then it just comes up and up and up and up. And then Happy Phantom comes in and it's like, what the hell is this? It's such a fun song to split up those big theatrical moments. I really like that. And that's where you turned off with China.
China lost me a little bit. It's a bit too warbly,
Okay.
not enough. Well, there's quite a lot of humour in this album as well, isn't there?
Yeah.
There's really, really funny moments, and there's nothing really funny about that song. It's just a bit serious, and that's okay. The lyrics are still quite relatable, like a relationship breaking up, speaks about it very honestly, and you can, again, it really paints the picture. You can see yourself in that living room looking across going, what the fuck am I bloody doing here? So she does paint the picture well, but if that's as bad as the album gets, it's a bloody strong album.
I think, that moment for me that you just described is probably Leather is my least favourite song.
Is Leather the
album.
one that's got that incredible lyric about big fat cigar? It's really funny. It's probably my favourite bit of the album.
But then when it gets to Mother, like, this is it. This is just an absolute peak for the rest of it. It's just absolutely love it. Tear in my hand. an absolutely gorgeous song. What I like about it is that everything just fits, and she knows how to get that song to a crescendo and then bring it back down. And the structure of her songs are so lovely. It's not necessarily always verse, chorus, middle eight, chorus. There's almost like pieces. Like you can tell she's from a classical background. It's like sections. Do you know what I mean? And
Absolutely.
I just love it.
Yeah.
So gorgeous.
Did you ever listen to her album she released before this? She was in a band. I found this out.
Why Can't Tori Read?
Why Can't Tori Read? With all four of those words spelled incorrectly on purpose.
I listened to that after, maybe halfway through my Tori Amos journey.
Yeah. Must be quite a nice discovery again. There's a whole other album out there.
And I only liked one song. Is it Picture?
Well, you like more than most people, I think, because it got pretty widely panned, even by Tori herself. I've got a quote here which I thought was worth reading. Tori has been quoted as saying, "The only good thing about that album is my ankle-high boots."
There is one good song. If it's got Picture in the lyric, listen to that, because that is really good. I might be completely off because I haven't listened to it. I actually only had someone burnt it on a CD and I think it was this Jesse boy, hand wrote all the track listings for me because I think he was wicked at LimeWire back in the day.
Everyone needs a friend that's good at LimeWire in the noughties, doesn't
It
they?
must have taken him ages to download that. Not a lot of people must have had that.
Well, look, I've arranged something for us.
Okay.
Something a bit special.
Is she here?
I've got good news and I've got bad news. Tori is not in the room, but I have arranged a quiz for us.
Oh, God, okay.
Now, this quiz started with the best of intentions. It was going to be a bit of fun. It was going to be called Who's That Tori? It was going to be quotes from Tori Amos and quotes from the Tory party.
I love that. Okay.
But then I started researching it and I just got really, really sad, Sophie, just reading horrible quotes from a Conservative government. Yeah. And I just thought, this is no fun.
Don't want to promote them.
This is no fun.
No,
it made me really sad. So instead, we've got one question on Who's That Tory?
Okay.
Is this Tori Amos or is it a member of the Tory party? I actually think better in high heels.
That could be either of them.
That's the game, Sophie.
I'm going to say that's Tori Amos.
It's Theresa May.
Oh, shit.
I know. Shit. She said something quite funny once, and that really upsets me. But there you go. But that's the end of Who's That Tory?
Oh, well, I'm pleased I did so well.
Yeah. It was an effort.
Yeah.
It's not the end of the quiz,
God
though.
loves a trier.
We've got more Tori Amos themed questions.
Okay.
Or Little Earthquakes themed questions, I should say.
I'll do shit at this, won't I? Go on.
It's your setup to fail on this, don't worry.
Yeah, go on.
Labyrinth, KSI, and Tyler, the Creator all have songs called Earthquake. But who is the littlest earthquake? I'll repeat the question. Labyrinth, KSI, and Tyler, the Creator all have songs called Earthquake. But who is the littlest earthquake? Basically, who's the shortest out of Labyrinth, KSI, and Tyler, the Creator?
Not Tory.
It's Little Earthquake based. That's the pun we're going for on this.
Okay.
Who is the littlest earthquake?
The last one.
Can I shock you?
Yeah.
It's not him.
The first one?
It is Labyrinth at a feeble 5'9". Tyler, the Creator, stands pretty tall at 6'2", but Labyrinth.
5'9" is quite tall.
I'm 6'4".
But you're tall.
I'm tall. I'm tall. But that's the littlest earthquake. Labyrinth, 5'9".
Factual.
Yes. What is the littlest magnitude an earthquake can be to still be considered an earthquake?
Okay.
On the Richter scale, of course.
Have got A, B, or C? Multiple choice.
No, we're going straight in. What is the smallest magnitude that a little earthquake can be?
0.5.
Considered an earthquake. You're not far off. It's
0.8.
-2. -2 on the Richter scale. Yeah. Not doing too well.
No.
What's so amazing about really deep thoughts?
Oh, you bugger! Oh, God. This is
so you found a girl who thinks really deep thoughts.
What's so amazing about really deep thoughts?
It's actually an open-ended question. Just what's so amazing about it? What's so amazing about them? It's more a vibe-based answer.
Doesn't she repeat it, though?
That's not the question.
Okay.
There's points based on vibe here, Sophie. What's
God,
so amazing
I have got
about
11
really deep
GCSEs, I
thoughts?
promise, and a 2-1 in Esperanto.
And you were a teacher.
And I was a teacher, for a long time.
It's more philosophical on this one.
What's so amazing? Okay, so you don't want me to repeat the lyric. What's
No,
so
not about
amazing
that.
about really deep thoughts? You can sit and look at the stars and smoke fags and listen to Tori Amos.
It's 10 fucking points for Sophie.
Yay!
She's done it. Never doubted it. Little Earthquakes is a pizzeria in Walthamstow.
No way.
How much does a Ring of Fire pizza cost at Little Earthquakes?
What inch? 7, 10?
Oh, it's a classic 12.
A classic 12. Where is this?
This is in Walthamstow, East London.
I'm going to say...
E17, of course.
12 inch. I'm imagining this place serves pizza and kebabs. This is where I'm going with this. So I don't think it's going to be a high-end pizza. I reckon a 12-inch pizza from Little Earthquakes would cost... Margarita, we're talking. Or Ring of Fire.
A Ring of Fire pizza.
Ooh.
It's not a plain pizza. There's a bit of something going on there. I'm imagining pepperoni. I'm seeing jalapenos.
$7.50.
$7.50. Welcome to London, Sophie. It's £12 for a Ring of Fire pizza. Yeah.
Okay.
Big time. But it's funny, actually, because I saw... I Googled that and found it.
It would
But
be
today,
$7.50 in Manchester, by the way.
Of course it would.
Yeah,
Everything's better
yeah.
up there, isn't it? But Time Out were in my Instagram feed today talking about this pizzeria as if by a gift from the gods. It's almost as if the algorithm knows.
It does, doesn't it?
They
You
just
what? I'm going to
fucking
walk
know.
out there and there's going to be a piano out there, isn't there? And I have to play it.
Tori Amos could be here.
Keep teasing you with this.
Elevator music. The Way We Fight. The Way I'm Left Here Silent. Disintegration. Watching Us Wither. Black wing roses that safely change their colour are all things that Tori Amos what?
Can I just cut this? I do a quiz where I actually speak the lyrics, and all like the people who play the quiz look at me like they're completely confused and like, what is this song? You're making this up. You doing this to me now? I am feeling their pain, and I know this album inside
All
out.
these years of being a quizmaster really not quite paying off, are they, Sophie?
Just say it again to me, please.
With pleasure. Elevator music. The Way We Fight.
Elevator music,
The Way I'm Left Here
the way
Silent.
we
Disintegration. Watching Us Wither. Black wing roses that safely change their colour are all things that Tori Amos what?
She's silent all these years. Silent all these
It's
years.
not the question.
Oh shit! Black wing roses,
Yeah.
the way we hide, the way we love you. Oh, I'm so sorry, Tori. I don't know.
am enjoying this squirming, Sophie. I know that you know this. I know that you're better than this.
Elevator music, the way we fight, the way we
Might have to push you for time now, Sophie.
Oh, I don't know.
You don't know.
No.
Who are things he doesn't like?
Oh yes.
All things she doesn't like.
Yeah. Okay. I failed miserably
Look,
at this.
I'm not proud of myself, but the good news is you've got a lot of fucking points for the deep thoughts question. So you have
Thank you.
won.
Yay!
This
What do I
quiz
win?
that doesn't have a name. You have won my notes on Tori Amos. Money can't buy that. So the artwork for it, I mean, it's not too heavy on an aesthetic. How would you describe the artwork?
She's in a wooden box at the front, crouched in that.
Is there a metaphor there somewhere?
She's coming out of the box.
She's coming out of the box.
And then there's lots of mushrooms on the back that look like it's quite a phallic. Mushrooms are on the back. She likes a penis reference. Yeah. Who knows what that is all about? But I think it goes out. If you get the CD inlay, those mushrooms are repeated on the inlay as well.
She's only human.
But fun fact here, that box that she was in, I mean, it's fun for me. So when I was at college, one of my assignments was to make a music video, and I chose to make a music video of Just a Girl, No Doubt. But I ripped off Tori Amos's wooden box, and I made the wood department make this giant wooden box, the same size as what she had, and where I sat in it just like Tori Amos did and sang No Doubt's Just a Girl.
You sang Just a Girl from the box.
Yeah, I mimed it. It was a music video assignment, yeah. But I just wanted to rip off Tori Amos because I loved her so much.
This girl means a lot to you, didn't she?
Yeah. She did. And I had, I went to go see, I don't know where this comes in it, but just the fandom of Tori Amos. So I was knee deep in Corn as well at this time. I went to go see
Is
them
that a Theresa May quote again? Hang on.
I went to see them at Manchester Apollo again. And I made my own T-shirts. with blue fluff, proper 90s, which said corn, like corn, cornflake girl.
Oh, yeah. The mashup we didn't know we needed.
I should have, put it down and made a business out of that. Could you imagine the merch?
The demand
Corn
for
fans and Tori.
Corn and Tori Amos combined merch was an untapped market there in the
Could you
late
imagine
90s,
that
early
collaboration?
90s. No.
I could.
I can imagine it now.
Yeah.
Thank God you're here, Sophie. Fucking hell. How would you describe Tori Amos to someone that's not heard her before?
Okay, so if you've never heard our Tori Amos, I would start definitely from the beginning. But she is a song goddess. Right, think Florence and the Machine.
I'm thinking.
But 10 times better with the most incredible lyrics and a piano that will just send you off into a different world. God, that's a really hard question. I should be able to answer this. She's just ace. I don't care what you listen to. You could be into pop. You could be into punk, metal. You could be into indie. I think if you just give her a go, I think it will tick all your boxes, or at least one anyway.
I think it's a bloody good answer.
Do you think?
I think there's a lot of value in it. I don't think you can listen to it and say, it's shit.
No.
I think you could be from any world, like you say, metal or punk or whatever else, or drum and bass, and you'd say, there's something in that, which I don't think you can say for everyone, can you?
She just she can cross genres so well.
Yeah.
Like she was, when you hear her backstory, you just realise how fucking cool she was. So her dad was a churchman and she was taught classical piano. But she wanted to play like Led Zeppelin, which sort of went against the church background. So that's sort of like her pull away. And then she's got a lyric on one of the albums. It's sort of like when piano tries to beat guitars. And that's exactly what Tori Amos is. She is an indie punk rock girl on a piano warbling, but a beautiful warble, which is like a massive cuddle, and telling wicked stories, which can mean anything you want them to mean.
Love that.
It's lovely.
Love that. It sounds like she had quite an interesting upbringing, actually. She was like part Cherokee, and her dad was like some preacher from like some mad specific church, wasn't it?
I said something like that. I know he was a religious man.
Yeah, it will set you up to have quite an interesting life. But she was like a child prodigy at like 5 years old.
Yeah.
And was the youngest person. I think it was called the Peabody College, if I remember correctly. I have done some research, Sophie.
Well done.
The youngest person to ever be taken onto that college. And, well, paid off, I reckon, didn't it?
It did. And I love the fact that she went against that upbringing. I mean, she's still
takes some
very
balls,
close to her family, but she just repelled her, and she went in a different direction. And all of her lyrics, I love like the connotations of sex and how she presents herself on stage. She is like a very sexual performer. You listen to how she's in your ear, like well before Billie Eilish came along. She was right in your logo in that production, and she can do that on stage as well. And yeah, she's just wicked. She's ace.
She's also gone on to like, as she's gotten older, she's like quite spiritual, but in a very different way to her dad by the sound of it. It's a lot of like crystals and fairies and all that sort of stuff.
She's always been crystals and fairies.
Yeah, is that something that sort of speaks to you quite a bit?
When I was younger, maybe when I first discovered her, because they used to call me the rainbow girl with bells in my shoes. I didn't have bells in my shoes, but yeah, it was all.
That won't stop the piss
takers.
Just,
I didn't look like the rest of the kids at school. But yeah, she's always been into fairies, and that's what's at the audience. You'll see fairy lovers. They might even go in wings. You know what I mean?
It's not like
I'm beyond that a bit now.
Well, look, Sophie, this has been a right laugh. Can't thank you enough for giving up your time today.
Anytime.
It's been a laugh, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm pleased you've listened to the album.
Well, so am I. And it's not the last Tori Amos album I'll be listening to.
Stop at album 5.
It's a good rule. For now, I want to go to album 6.
No, stop. I mean, you can, but I would stop. Otherwise, I think it spoils it.
I've never been good at taking advice. Catchers, 12 months' time, deep diving, album number 6 by Tori Amos. This has been this album. I have been William Hann. Sophie, where can people stay up to date with what's going on in your world?
Oh, they can get on all the old socials if you choose to at Sophie Sveinsson. Sveinsson spelled Otner.
I'll have it written down on the app, don't worry.
Okay, I can't spell it.
Anything you need to promote at this point? Anything that we can plug?
No, not at all. Just keep on Radio X.
I mean, that's a good rule for life anyway, Sophie.
Yeah.
Anyone listening to this is fucking listening to Radio X. Don't you worry about that. Thank you very much, Sophie. What an honour, what a pleasure, what a privilege.
Oh, thanks, man. I hope that was all right.
I think so, yeah.
Are you sure?